Welcome everyone. This is our another new episode of World Talent Economy Forums. Today we actually bring one of the important and special guests from Sweden. And I think he is a superstar on entrepreneurships. He has a huge experience on entrepreneurships and he has lot of engagement, lot of involvement with many of the projects, activities, not only in Sweden, I think around the world. So let's introduce Mr. Bart Ola. We want to know about you, your activities, and especially we know about you. We want to know about Sweden.
Thank you for welcoming me here. It's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to connect with your community after or during. So ask me anything. I would say if you go to my Facebook profile, and I'm sure you will share it, you can see under my photo there, connecting people, passion, purpose, and places. And I would say that is what I have been doing the last 15 years. I'm doing it. I think that has been my passion my whole life, to experience culture, history, different places. That has been my sort of core motivation. And what I'm also doing now. So try to connect passionate people with whatever they do to improve, build a better society, better business, better organizations, better individuals. That's what I do. So it's like constant.
Very interesting. Basically, we want to know about Sweden. Can you share, because Sweden has different strategy for controlling this COVID-19. What's the present condition of Sweden?
I would say that you can Google to get a lot of videos, CNN and BBC, and like the Swedish case. So I recommend others to go there. You will find lots of official expert discussions. But as living here in a small city in the middle of nowhere in North Sweden, it works pretty well. We have kept the society more or less open the whole time. That means there are some restrictions. You are not allowed to go to a restaurant or the pub, to stand in the bar and whatever you want to do. Here you need to sit at the table. It's okay. You need to keep a bit of distance. But basically you're allowed to do most things in society. Last weeks they haven't recommended that you travel to other parts of Sweden. There's no problem to travel within your region or within your city, but not to go to other places and like that. So I would say, and we are not allowed to have big public meetings, maximum 49 people together. But that has been the sort of restriction in not in a formal law. This is recommendations from the government. But I think that is a bit to understand the Swedish or the Nordic countries model. In history, we have built a very strong social contract with the people, the state, the academy, the business. There is sort of informal agreements among people. So in practice, you don't need the laws all the time because people are like reliant on each other. So like if a government go out and say, this is good for you and society, if you do that, that's enough. You don't need police in the street. And that might be a big difference to another country of the world. So in practice, it's not so big difference, but it's not law. It's not police on the street. It's more, it's good for us if you do like this, and people follow it. They wash their hands, they stay home when they feel sick, and not everyone, of course, but to a large degree. Also important to take into consideration is that we have only 10 million people in Sweden, and we are a pretty big country in size. So that means, as you can imagine, that physical distancing is almost DNA. It's so easy to find a space. It's easier to find a space with no people than with a lot of people. So it's like wherever you go, there will be few people or 10 meters away or 1 minute walk or So it's a bit effortless to be a bit physical distancing. And of course, we have been affected heavily as well because the rest of the world has closed down more or less. So, and we have a global economy where suppliers and people working together. So Sweden has also been a lot of affected from the rest of the world, but still it has worked pretty well, I think. Of course, some industries like tourism, restaurants, who are heavily reliant on customers to go there, hotels, that sort of sector, they have been hit very badly by the corona. But other sectors reasonably well if you compare with maybe Germany or UK or US or France or Italy or so. But let's see. That's the status right now anyway. And the rest of the countries here in North Europe, our neighbors, are opening up as well at the moment. So I think these days, early June, it's not that big difference between the different countries bordering to Sweden. But if we go 1 month back or 6 weeks back, it was a big difference. We were open relatively, and the others were very closed.
Very interesting. What's the economic condition? Is there any impact for global shutdowns and many countries they close their border? Is there any impact? Yes.
Yes, like I said, of course, Sweden is. I think if you go Google, we are one of the most global business-oriented economies in the world relative to our population. We are a small country, but we have big global business, Volvo, Ericsson, Astra, a lot of businesses who has been around for 100 years or more. And of course, they are totally global. So like Volvo cars or others, they are, by the way, Chinese now. So, but we still have a lot of industry here in Sweden. So they are affected because we are in a global economy. But I think overall, we are not as badly hit as many of the other neighbor countries. They are more affected than we are so far because we have still a bit open economy. You know, the local economies work better. They go to the restaurant, they support, they are not sitting home. So you get a bit of more economic activity still going.
One interesting thing, like you say, you are social engineer. So from your perspective, what's the pros and cons if you compare this the country, those who fully shut down their country, and your country is still open, everything opens and in good shape. So do you have any analysis on that?
Yeah, my opinion, I'm not an expert, but I have opinions, definitely. First of all, I don't think it's a severe sickness. It's of course they who get this, it's the first time this virus is around. So some people get very sick and a lot of people at the same time. But if you look at all the people who are suffering around the world in poverty or whatever virus out there, from HIV or there are tons of sicknesses out there. This, I think, when we look back at this in 2 years from now, we will see that this was not. It wasn't, in my opinion, more reaction than it should have been. We didn't know initially because it was something new, but pretty quickly it should open up more. I think that's what I believe in. And what I've seen, because our neighboring country, Norway, which is about the same culture, same size, I have been there many times. They have been very closed down. When you lock down, people get frightened. The fear starts to grow in yourself. So it's like fear drives fear. If you're open and start to live with it, it's more open. You know, if you're outside, it's dangerous. There are many situations in the world that are dangerous. But if you're outside, you learn how to be in this open environment. If you sit in the cellar all the time, sometime you need to leave. You can't sit there forever. And this was the key strategy in Sweden. They very early said that this virus will be here for very, very long time. We can't have an approach, a policy where we lock people inside for a few weeks or some months, because sooner or later they need to leave. And what do you do then? Because this will be in 2 years ahead, maybe 3 years. It's not 2-3 months. You can't lock people in for 1 year. That's a big damage to physical health, for domestic violence, for poverty. The remedy cannot be worse than the cure. So that has been the key approach, which hasn't been 100% effective in Sweden. Protect the elder people, keep the hospital system at a reasonable level so it's not overloaded, and still have a bit open society so we don't ruin business and everything totally, because that will also have very big and bad health effects in the long time. See what's going on in the US, for example, or other places right now.
Yes. Very interesting. One important thing is that you said that you have a lot of engagement with social innovations and social entrepreneurship. We want to know actually what do you mean by social innovations, social entrepreneurships, and this kind of thing.
Yeah, well, my specialty normally is to bring different stakeholders of society to better work together, like cities, academy, business, like networks of clusters and like that. But within that, there is also these entrepreneurs who start to make a business around renewable energy or water efficiency, or build new innovation for include people who are poor, or so that's sort of social innovation, new ways of organizing methodologies, methods, and business entities who try to deal with problems in society. And you have now the UN Sustainability Goals, the 17, which makes it pretty clear well-being or education or gender equality or innovation or partnership or climate or renewable energy and so forth. So health issues, that's well-being, number 3. So you can find your approach there as an entrepreneur. I build a better business for health and well-being. Well, then you're part in solving a social problem. You can help building a better society by building business. You know how to engage people, how they are better mentally shaped, how they think better, how they feel better. Then that's social innovation, because you attack the problem in that sense. You do, but the social innovation itself can be done in different ways. It can be by organizing a community to deal with health issues, to take care of each other. Maybe it's not even a business entity that does this. It's a methodology of bringing the community together. So you don't need the pills. Social capital or relations can be medicine as well. It's not always the medicine. The medicine can always also be relations. Can be very effective if you have people who care around you. So that's sort of social innovation, to find a way to organize and solve a problem in society. And
Very
you can do that.
interesting.
That's social.
Yes. There are question. What is the topic of the discussion today? Basically, our guest, honorable guest, Mr. Bart Ola, he is from Sweden. He will discuss about the social innovations and entrepreneurships. They already welcome you, and they said that Mr. Nasirul Islam, Reza Elias said this is a very nice discussion. So please carry on. So okay, you are talking about entrepreneurships. So now the world has many challenges, especially economic challenge. Every country, even I'm from Malaysia, they have many challenges. Even around the world, they have many challenges. Actually, what we exactly mean like entrepreneurships and how it helps our economy in present condition, when we see the statistics that many even entrepreneur actually fail, even they're from Silicon
Yeah.
Valley or they're from
Yeah.
Europe or from Asia Pacific. So what does it mean and how we can make it more successful?
Well, and that's in the DNA. It's the time for entrepreneurship now. It's the DNA to solve problem and needs. That's what an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur do. So it would be.
Mm-hmm.
This is golden times for an entrepreneur to be in, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
radical. It's a big shift, and we know from
Mm-hmm.
shifts that in shifts new things will happen. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
absolutely sure that when we look, that's my conviction. In 3-4 years, when we look back, we will see new industries emerge out of this. Entrepreneurs who
Mm-hmm.
found ways to organize that others didn't see. And I had an interview a few weeks back with Dr. Ernesto Cirolli from San Diego. He is an Italian. He did a very famous TEDx talk with 3-4 million views. He said to me when a bit the similar questions, you can either hide in the cellar or you can jump in the trenches and start to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. And what do an entrepreneur do? They don't hide in the cellar. They start to find out what is needed in this neighborhood. Can I help in some way? It's not maybe that you have the perfect solution the first day, but you can start with something. Maybe you can reach out to the small cafe. Is there something I can do? Build a new market. I think there are a lot of people waiting for the big solution, but you need to find these signals and start to doing something and build from that. I don't know Malaysia in the context you are in, so I can't say exactly what you do that, but that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. They don't hide in the cellar. They go out and start to reach out like you do now. You find opportunities and ask for needs. Can I be part of the solution? And then you start to figure it out. That's entrepreneurship in essence.
Always, all of the entrepreneur mentor like you, they say this is mindset. Like example, we have huge young people here in this community. So how they can do this mindset and how they can handle this kind of crisis and other things. Like Mr. Reja said,
Yeah.
crisis create opportunities. Yes.
Yeah, I think on the one hand, you say mindset. Mind is, to some extent, I believe, is pretty much set. So it's not easy to shift the mindset. After some years, you start to have this is your identity and like that. It's very hard to change yourself as a person. But to some extent, that's what I believe. But of course, to some extent, you can do it by learning. I would say reach out. One thing is, of course, start daily to reach out to new people outside your circle. Often you get very affected with people around you, and maybe also your inner voice. The biggest discussion you will have in life is with yourself. Be aware of your inner voice. I can't do this. No, that's too dangerous. I can't reach out. They will say no. So I think that's part of the mindset to learn about your inner voice and to start to reach out with people. I would recommend reach out to people who are beyond your circle daily. Make one call every day to another person and see what's going on. Don't do it just to, I want to get money out of this. I reach out, can you help me? Start to nurture, do it by doing. It's like, I want to learn from this guy in Rio de Janeiro, New York City, or in a small village in Ghana or something. Start to explore. And when you start to explore, normally things will start to arise. If you focus over a long time, you will learn the thing, but you will not get this overnight success. It takes 10 years to get an overnight success. So I think the only way to become very good in what you do is to find your passion and nurture it long time. So that's why it's important to look at yourself. What is it I'm really passionate about? And try to build around that.
Yes.
Because it will take long time to nurture.
Well, from our audience, they want to ask you like growth mindset is required to implement the business successful. So what's your opinion on growth mindset, or what do you think? Like we are talking about strong mindset, inner voice,
Mm.
many of the intellectual thoughts. So
Mm.
how you want to simplify these things for our audience?
Uh, I think it's a lot of books out there that you can easily read. The like how to grow. These 3 points will grow your mindset. There's tons of this, Tom Peters or others there. So, but I think my takeaway over the years is I was in sport a lot before. You can't become a good sportsman if you don't go through the pain. You need to train harder. You need to stay on the field. It's the same here. And if it's only for the money, you will never become a professional. That's my philosophy, sportsman, because you need to endure this pain over many years. And of course, you do it because you like it. You don't go to the soccer field or others and feel bored for 15 years. You go there because your passion. So so that's to answer a bit your question, growth mindset. It's more grow yourself, grow your passion, grow your, because that's the key. Find your, what is your motivation here? What is it you really want to do? And then start to find out how you can connect that into other fields of opportunities, if it's business or in science or you can be passionate from different fields. I think we need different passions with different skills in society to build a great society. Some people love to do business, other people love to research. They want to say, why did this guy go to the left and not to the right? I want to find out. The other will find, okay, if he goes to the left, I can sell a car on the other side. So it's
Okay.
like, but yes, I think a really good researcher has sort of the same philosophy. They want to find out the black swan or the white swan, or why. I had a very good professor he was a guest professor at School of Business in Gothenburg, where I was 10, 12 years back. And he said, I had him in as a teacher in qualitative interviewing. And he said that a really good scientist can go into, he took New York City wintertime as an example, can go into New York City and see people suffering, sleeping on the streets in snow and melting water. And a good researcher will see them as, or think, and how can they survive here? I want to find out. It's not that they are losers. So that's the mindset of being a good researcher, is like, how this is something that I really want to get the knowledge around. To some extent, I think this is, if you're born in a family where they cultivate education and whatever, you have a bit of course, advantage because you're already in this setting. But I think to a large extent, you can still nurture this and grow yourself. If you, especially in this time of internet and books and videos and YouTubes, and so it's not set. You can change your life. I'm absolutely convinced. We have more chances now than 20, 30 years before. It's not set in stone.
Yes. Very interesting. One specific things, you are developing a learning societies, and you have a huge relationships and working community around the world. Can you share with your activities and your process of work with us?
Yeah, it's a long process. So what I started with, I had one foot in academy, one in practice. So I did a lot of research in networks, network theories, and there's a lot of ideas about how to connect networks and find structures where you will have information to be shared quicker if you find the right person and like that. For example, one theory called structural hole theory by Ronald Burt, an American sociologist and mathematician. So by using these ideas, you can build very vibrant and valuable networks. And you can go deep into it, but it's fairly simple as well. You identify people outside your circle, you start to connect with them, find them who also want to grow networks, don't sit in and have close relations. When you build things with them, things will start to merge because the new people will bring in new information, which will be new knowledge and new opportunities. So the Learning Society is very much an idea where we systematically identify new stakeholders around the world that want to be part in building something better. That's the fundamental principle of a learning society. So what we do now with you and your community, maybe there are people in your community that in 1-2 years from now we will have great partnerships with. Because so you are sort of showing what we do. If this will not happen if you don't send me an inbox and say hello, I exist. Many will not answer, but I mean this is part of you need to be continuation, and that's the hard thing of being an entrepreneur. You will get a lot of no, I don't, or people will not respond. But sometimes you get one who responds, and then something happens. So the Learning Society is the way to organize these new forms of partnerships using digital technologies, available knowledge in a completely global perspective.
Like, what do you think about the innovations? What will happen next 5 to 10 years? How you said that now opportunity is more. Like if we think about 30, 40 years now, opportunity is very high.
Yeah, I only know the first 5 years yet.
Okay, like okay, no problem. Yes.
It's a bit hard to know, of course, this, but like I said, we know that something big is happening because it's a radical shift, what's going on the corona. So we know that something big, it will be in the intersection. If we go back in history of innovation, we see that innovation happen on the edges, on the borders of things. So from a social engineering perspective, you know that most things happen around network borders. It's not within your clusters. So you should start to think who is not part of the community, who is outside, because things happen around borders, and it in a network, but that's how it works.
Okay, very interesting. So, like example, science and technology, as you mentioned, that it will also science and technology actually playing a very important role right now, and we are actually waiting for our guest. Yes, can you hear me, Mr. Bartola? Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Bartola? Can you hear me, Mr. Bartola? Basically, I think that he is trying to fix his things, internet connection and these things. So basically, there are many interesting discussion we find.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please continue. We want to continue with the science and technological application from Europe. You are talking about Europe has many, especially Sweden has many big tech companies, and we want to know this kind of companies' cultures and this kind how they operate, how they innovate, how they do their business. If you share with our audience, because we have many young audience here.
Yeah, of course, some of these big businesses, they have been around, it's like nations more or less, because they are maybe 100,000 employees in 150 countries. So it's like big entities. And they have it's not easy maybe to shift an organization like that because they become institutionalized. They work in a certain way, depending on the routines and the, how they operate. It's according to maybe the CEO thinks it should be done anyway. So I would say it's very much dependent on the company itself. If we have the car industry, in general, I would say that the Scandinavian business approach of management is it's not dominance, it's to be the facilitator. It has always been to keep a low profile. If you look at Scandinavian management approach, it's not if you know Microsoft's all boss after Bill Gates, it was screaming on stage, and that would never work in Scandinavia. So it's sort of the Trump style would be killed immediately in Sweden. Here it's a very, very informal, behind the scenes, listen to others. That's sort of the culture, the corporate culture. And it's how it works. It's like, it's not easy to become like that because it's in your blood. It's how you grow up but I think it's a bit the philosophy here to do things, but with not being on the stage. Of course you need to give presentations like that, but you shouldn't dominate the room. You should be listening to the others and let the other brains. You are not, surround yourself with intelligent people and facilitate that and let them grow. That's the philosophy. I think you would find a lot of that philosophies in Swedish business, where they try to get others to contribute and you yourself as a leader keep a low profile. So it's a very non-hierarchical society. Even the king, I would say, of course you call him King Carl, but even at that level, you are almost saying you, not the special title. So I met a lot of people coming from other parts of the world, and I'm very surprised because you can meet very, very high officials on the street, and they are like ordinary persons. You don't even see on them that they are CEO of the largest company in Sweden or one of the biggest in the world, or the king, the prince of that, or if you meet them, but a little bit simplified, of course, but it's very non-hierarchical society.
No, this is very interesting. Like year and year, we're listening these points, and like you are very facilitators. You love in simple livings, and you go for big thinkings and many interesting things happening in the Nordic society. So, like example, you said that facilitator. Even when we saw your profile and everything, that you are facilitator of many of the organizations. It's a very important thing that you are connectors as well as you are facilitators. So how actually like developing nation like us, they can increase this mentality that we can be the facilitators, and what's the benefit of these facilitators activities, those who getting from us. Let's say I'm also a mentor from few of the students. How can I be a better facilitator?
Well, I said to start, the good thing now is that we have access to all this Facebook and Instagram and all this for free, many of these tools. So it's very accessible. So I would say start by, this guy also, Rehan Alavala. So I would start by, I think some of the future skills to know is to connect with people, because some people are afraid even to send a Facebook request. So one, you need to be able to connect, to go out of your fear bubble of connecting. That's one. But it's not enough to connect. When you have connected, you need to say, hello, I'm here. So there are different qualities here. To connect is one, but it's not enough to be a good connector. You need also to find out what will you do after you have connected. Then you start to build this environment when it's more important to facilitate. So for me, a bit, and then you need to find out, like, okay, where do we go after the party? So you need both the connecting part, the facilitating part, and the future. Why do we go after this meeting or this plug? So these are sort of the skills you need, and you need to become a good listener. You need to become a good person to ask questions, and you need to make using social media in your blood, how to make videos, upload them. If you start there, I'm sure you will find your way. And since you will do this, like I said, you will not reach this, we say, overnight success immediately. Then you're very lucky. Most of the time, it takes many years. And to do this for many years with maybe a few people, a small audience, find your passion, because then if you have 3 people to speak with around your passion, it might be enough. You don't need 30,000 or 20,000 or whatever. You start with that and you build your skills step by step, and they invite them. If you find a passion, it will be still, I do a lot of talk with 1 or 2 persons because I like it. I get some more qualitative, I prefer small dialogues with 2, 3 people who really know their field. And then I organize big events like I can do with 100, 200 or 1,000 or like that. But the real quality you get in the small talks with people who know. So it's a combination of nurturing the small talks with the bigger and go in between. And if you find for the people in your community, if you start to identify your passion, if it's reading books or culture of Malaysia, or if it's a startup culture, I guarantee if you find your passion there and start to be a facilitator or something within that field, you can start to reach out around the world and see who others would be interested in this. And maybe not in your own community, because then it's maybe you are the crazy one, you're just alone. But if you reach out globally, maybe you suddenly get 300-400 people who are super interested in your specific thing you are passionate about. So that's why I stress this, that look for your inner voice, and not only this I need to do because someone told me to do it. It will be good work ahead. Maybe you need to do that as well, but in between, start to find and do a daily or a weekly small show on social media where you start to nurture your thing and play and try. And over time, and build of videos and like that, where you start to grow your community.
Like you are talking about startup community. So like in startup community, we find that there are many mentors actually working right now, and many of them actually
I can't hear right.
Hello, Mr. Bartola. Basically, I think he is facing some of the challenges and some of the things for connecting with us. But can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Yes. Okay. Basically, we want to know from you about the startup community in Sweden, and as you have involvement with lot of startup community, so we want to listen your voice on the startup and these things.
What specifically do you want to know about the startup?
Specifically, when startup they start their business, like what type of things they need to integrate it, like they are trying to integrate it with technology, with the human resources, with their finance. This is very difficult, but how you think that this difficult job they make it easy?
Most entrepreneurs starts with family and friends. They start with something small around themselves. If it's selling chewing gum on the street or whatever, they start to learn how to sell. They find someone want to buy something from me. If you look at Kamprad, the guy who built IKEA, he started to small as a young child. He started this to sell and to find out what people were interested, because this is sort of an art that you nurture. You learn to become an entrepreneur. It's not that you just read a book and then you're suddenly a big businessman. It's a long process to
Mhm.
but I think it's something you want to develop from that you're interested about. You get the easiest is to sell something. You buy something and then you sell it a bit more expensive. It's not more complicated than so. Depending on if you want to produce it yourself, it's more complicated because then you need to buy things and put them together, and that requires much more. It's easier to buy one thing and find someone who wants to buy this thing a bit higher price, and you package it with something. You put a name or a package around, and you deliver yourself you bring home the service or something. There are numbers of business models and companies if you Google. I say to a lot of people, Google, because you have tons of cases on Google, business models or how to start your business or different ideas. That's one of the most important assets as well, to learn how to Google, to learn how to find cases using YouTube and learn from them. Sort of recipes of being an entrepreneur.
Very interesting. Even actually, I think many of the audience learning from you. Humaira Tanzila, she gave a very good feedback. She said, perfect. She's a woman entrepreneur, Reza Ilyas, and the Nasirul Islam. Everybody just trying to learn it from your approach. So one interesting thing, even it's a very pathetic. Now for lockdown, many of the startup maybe they are losing their business and many things, and as they are a startup and they're the small business, maybe they do not have financial security and many more things may be possible. So what your advice for these startup communities, for especially for techs and science and this kind of thing?
It depends a little bit what type of business you had. But like I said, you need to put a lot of time. If you can't leave your apartment, then it's obviously hard because you're in a lockdown. But then you need to go through internet. You need to start to reach out to others in your field and business and look at how they do. And maybe if you have a business model that can be tweaked a little bit, that maybe you can make a Facebook account and a selling service. I can do this 1, 2, 3 things. Maybe you can't take that much money, but unfortunately, there is no quick fix. If you take there will never be. That's, I think, is important with the mindset. This is the concept of overnight success. It doesn't happen in reality. Most of the time, it's many years of work. Unfortunately, there is no, I read this recipe and then I'm an entrepreneur tomorrow. It's not how it works. You need to start somewhere. And I would say, look at your business, start to reach out online, see if it's a knowledge-based business. Maybe you can ask something to look at your product. Make a small product research. Is your small business valuable or applicable for someone outside your country? So using maybe some crowdfunding platforms, Patreon, for example, you can test. Patreon is a donation platform. You can put your profile there and say, here am I. I'm this girl or boy or whoever. I have this passion. I'm a bird watcher in Malaysia. I'm looking at the most unique birds in the world, and I do a collage of them, or I just say something here, because you can be whatever. And then the other thing, when you have your passion, this is something I really want to do, then is to find others in the world who's doing bird watching. But maybe one of these in Sweden or US are interested in this unique bird in Malaysia.
Very interesting. So very interesting point is that you have a huge friend from around the world. You are a very good connector. You have a strong network. So, like when a startup, let's say from Malaysia, they start their business and they want to be a global startup or global organization, how they can do step by step? What your advice on that particular point?
I think this is something you need to do in part of your growing your business, you need to put some time in constantly be outside your circle, to like every day, maybe 30 minutes, looking for other people randomly, finding your structure of doing something. Maybe not expect that it all the time will lead to something. You need to nurture this mindset of curiosity, to constantly look for something beyond yourself. Something, you will learn to see, wow, something happened in this environment. The other is to start to test with the local community. Of course, does this thing really, is this thing or passion that you are really passionate about, can you really sell? Is it valuable to the other person? So you get at least some, is there something here? Because the quicker you can find out, the sooner you can leave that. If it's, no, it's not realistic. That's a learning. Then you go to the next one. So don't wait forever in your business to find the perfect model or the perfect business model. It's more of testing and trying to find out in parallel, and start to get some first customer, even if they don't pay. At least you have. You can see feedback as a sort of payment. They gave some engagement back. Okay. Are you interested to look at my product? Yes, it's the beginning, because you get their attention and they get the interest. And next, you get maybe the feedback. Okay, if I shift a little bit, would you then be interested to buy something from me? No, yes. If they have, then you start to build your product, and then you grow it, and then you start. That's how you build a relation. Also, do you want to be part of this? I build this community. I value you as a customer or as a friend or something. That's how you start to build a network. So it's like this continuous dialogue with other people, and learn from them on the feedback and value the feedback. It's not always the money, the transaction. It's also to learn to see that it's to get to the transaction. Maybe you start with, I get a lot of inboxes every day from around the world, and they say the first thing they say, can you send me money? You know, if you start the conversation like that, you never build a relation. You need to show some curiosity first. So, like, who are you? I saw you did something interesting. I'm interested in this. Sometimes it might be hard because you're forced to do something, but show that you're curious about what's going on. Normally, you get people interested in that. So
Yes, this is very interesting. And another important thing is that we want to know about culture, like Swedish cultures, what they love to do, what they prefers, their like way of life and how they're living. We want to know actually Swedish cultures. Can you share with our audience?
Yeah, it's a small country in the north of Europe. It's very cold and dark in wintertime, and quite okay summertime. Very long sunny hours around the clock, and a bit warmer. Not like in Malaysia or Bangladesh or others, but at least it's okay. And take into consideration there that we have very few people living in a quite big landscape. So in culture, you learn to survive, to help other people, because if it's very, very cold outside, you will freeze to death if you don't help others in the wintertime, before roads or like that. If something happened, you were sick, maybe you needed to walk 2 hours to next person. So in that type of environment, you grow a culture of supporting others. So because there's not 100,000 people around in the neighborhood, it's one person and you need to walk 2 hours to find them. So that is sort of historic development of how our today's culture look like. You need to be, you can't just shout at people and do this or that. It's not how it works here. Of course, it's a lot of forest and water and like that. So it's a nature-loving people. They love nature. They go out in nature a lot. very active in sport. It's super active, I would say. If you look at the Olympics, Winter Olympics, Summer Olympics, sport is a big interest of the people here. So nature, sports, be active. Of course, we are in the more digital world, so it shifted. When I grew up, it was all about sports. That's what you could do. You had 2 TV channels, and the rest was the community and do sports. So I would say that is a bit of, and we are a small country up in the very north. So to survive here, you need to reach out to other. I think that has been one of the key successes of Swedish business. We don't have enough market here to grow. At the early stage, you have 2 chances. Either you become small, or you need to think big, global.
Exactly.
Because we don't have this market here at home. The most people, 90% will, that's fine for me. I have this 2-3 people, or you're alone as an entrepreneur, you find a local service, do whatever it is, and you're satisfied with that. Or you become Volvo Cars or IKEA, or you build global business, starting with as an entrepreneur when you are young boy or girl. And that takes maybe 40, 50 years to grow. Of course, in this today's world, you can grow IT-related businesses quicker than build like IKEA, the furniture group. I mean, that if you build big stores, it takes time to build big industries. The sawmill industry, you need to build a IKEA store, you need a lot of people involved on the floor, or production lines for Volvo or automotive industry. So it's a long journey. And I think if you go to these really big entrepreneurs, they have been passionate until they die. They started at a young age and they have done it for forever. They never quitted. They don't exist, these people that Steve Jobs or whoever out there. Most of them are committed until they die. They shift positions, but they are always engaged because they found something bigger than themselves.
It's a very, very interesting that you come up with a very, very, very good example about IKEA, about Volvo. Now how actually around the world, like this COVID-19 period, many challenges. Asia has challenged, Europe has challenged, America has challenged, even Africa has challenged. Every region has their own challenge. What will happen with the globalizations? What do you think the globalizations will move next 2, 3, or 4 years?
Yeah,
What's your understanding?
I don't. That's super hard to know. We see these bad forces in the world, unfortunately, with if it's the president of Brazil or the prime minister and Trump in US and others who are really want to be America first, not the world first. So you have these nationalist ideas, unfortunately, who have used the corona to say that we close everything down, we will protect you. And then they can start to surveillance the people. We bring in this equipment to make you more secure. But the real reason is that they want to control you. But they use this as a possibility to tell that I do this for you. And then they point the finger at some other country in the world that if we had done like Sweden, we would have 10 million dead people here on the streets. And they heavily push out in media that this great girl or this great man, they have protected the country, and you become popular. And you get a way of more controlling in your country and more nationalistic. So we have these forces going on in parallel with we have this incredible digital, like the sharings we do now. So I see sort of 2 things at the same time. They who go for more closing down and protecting, and the others who are super connected digitally. I think this will be sort of a battle in the coming decade. between they who want to close down and then they who want to open up. I don't know what it will be. It will be something in between. I definitely belong in the opening up person. So, but it will not happen by itself. I would be very careful. I think the biggest for me, COVID, the biggest threat is not it's bad with all the people who have died, but the biggest threat to the world is not the COVID virus. It's the democracy, the dictators, and the people who want to start to control others using COVID as the reason for that. That's the biggest threat to the world, in my opinion.
Yes, very interesting. We have to close the session because this is 1 hour of sessions. The last part, like we want some advice because there are many entrepreneurs, many government people in this group, many policymakers and organizations. So, what's your opinions like about the entrepreneurial journey and the social innovation, especially? Do you have any specific advice for this audience?
Go out and don't wait. I said, like Ernesto Sirolli said, you can hide in the cellar or you can jump into the trenches and start to help others. And the entrepreneur is the one they leave. Of course, maybe you are forced to sit at home, but then you can go out as you do. You don't need the permission from someone else. Start your own, like nurture your passion, start to reach out and see what people say. Start with say, hello, I exist, I'm here. Are you interested? No, maybe I need to put on a new hat or another t-shirt or something. You need to put yourself a bit outside your comfort zone and start to experiment. And when you listen on the feedback, you will quickly learn. That's how design thinking, and they who try most and learn by iteration, they will move fastest forward. It's not to sit and wait in the cellar and to come up with the greatest idea and reading books. It's by testing, constantly testing and reaching out and doing it. And you get more and more intelligence. But try to do it in a curious way. Otherwise, it will be too boring. It will, do I need to reach out again 2 hours? It's like so boring. That's why it's important to start with something you love doing. If it's bird watching or swimming or reading a book or collecting stamps or whatever. Because now we can reach out. We are in a world of opportunities. Maybe not in your own small location, but globally you might find a few hundred or thousands of people who would like to be interested in your thing. That's the opportunity you have. And you have all the time to do this if you have internet connection and some kind of equipment to connect up. To start with what you have and learn from that.
Thank you, Mr. Bart Ola. We get a lot of interesting informations and analysis from your part. Specifically, we know about the Sweden present conditions and how Sweden actually handled these COVID-19 situations, as well as your social innovations, and most importantly, how an entrepreneur can start their journey. They can be global. Specifically, you come up with some great example about IKEA, about Volvo, and this kind of global organizations. And very interesting thing is that even it's a learning for me that how Swedish people think. Either they think small or they think big. As you do not have huge population, that's why the company like Volvo and IKEA, they have to go big. They have to build up the global companies. And most important part is that network is very important. We need to connect it with each other. We have to nurture it. We have to be curious. We have to be hardworking, and definitely we have to jump on the street for doing the job. So this is very, very important for our community, and hopefully in the futures we will get more of your World Talent Economy Forum. Actually, get more of your involvement, and with the community partnerships, we can build up more good and efficient worlds with a proper business environment. So thank you, Mr. Bartola. I know you are very busy. You have a lot of engagement with lot of work and activities, but we really appreciate you that you give out your important interviews and advice and your experience, you sharing your experience with us. Thank you, Mr. Bartola.
And feel free to connect on follow the groups and everything. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bartola.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.